In this nugget, I wanted to share with you some tips and tricks in using the documentation from VMware to find stuff, including using the online documentation and how we can leverage PDFs to make our search for specific content that much faster and easier. Now, for this demonstration, I've just opened a local browser on my local computer, and I've gone to the URL docs.vmware.com. And over time, the landing page may look slightly different, but the idea is the same. We go to the docs site for VMware, and then because our current focus is on vSphere, we'd go ahead and click on this link right here for vSphere. So we'll click on the vSphere link, and here we have documentation for vSphere 6.5, 6.0, 5.5, and we can expand each of these sections simply by using the little navigation tool to the left of each topic. So if we click on the arrow to the left of ESXi and vCenter Server, it expands that, and then we could go to any of those sections. However, what I want to point out is that they also provide PDFs for that same documentation. So if we scroll down a little bit in the 6.5 section, here we have an option for PDF format. So if we expand that and then scroll down a little bit more, here we have all these documents that we can download as PDFs on our local computer. So we have the best of both worlds. We have the online capability of looking up information, and we can also download the PDFs. Now, that comes in pretty handy for a couple of reasons. Number one, maybe we're at a job site where we need some clearance, maybe top secret clearance. So in that case, we may not have access to the internet, but what we might be able to do based on the policy there, we might be able to bring in a read-only CD that we'd have to leave there as well that we could use. And if we had all these PDFs previously downloaded and placed on that CD, then we would still have access to that documentation at that location. Another benefit of the PDF format is that if we download them to our local computer, we can also use them to search on. And I find that searching through the PDFs, at least for me, is sometimes faster and more efficient than searching on the website for a specific piece of information. So what I've done is I've downloaded all of these PDFs to my local computer, as you can as well. And let me share with you how we can leverage that information as PDFs on our local computer. So what we have here is my local computer. I've got a folder called Official Docs PDF beneath a folder called vSphere 6.5. And I've downloaded many of the PDFs from the online documentation site at VMware. So if we were looking at some topic, for example, performance charts inside of vCenter, what we could do is do a Control F here in File Explorer, or just place the cursor up in the search window, either way, and type in performance charts. And then once we type in performance charts, it's going to narrow down the list of documents to those that include those words. So from this list, it's very likely if we want to find out more information about performance charts, it's probably going to be in this monitoring and performance guide for vCenter 6.5. So here in File Explorer, if we double click on that document to open it, our computer is going to open it up in whatever our computer has associated to open up and process PDFs. In my case, it's Adobe Acrobat. And then over here on the left, we have the sections. We can expand and click on those. Over here on the right, if we don't need these features at the moment, we can go ahead and simply click on the arrow right here to go ahead and collapse that. And we can also resize it to make it more readable. And for me, when I'm working with PDFs, I like the ability to scroll through the individual pages as opposed to having it jump from one page to the next. And we can control that option under View by clicking on View. And then regarding this option, which is Page Display, we can select the Enable Scrolling. Again, that's just a personal preference. And here in this document, now if we wanted to do a search, we could do a Control F to go ahead and search. There's also an icon for search right here as well that we could use. And then if we're searching for performance charts, we can type in performance charts. And then press enter. And then we can click on next, 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 and it'll take us through everywhere that shows up in that PDF. So if we're looking for basic information on performance charts, we could just go ahead and close the search for a moment and simply click here, which will take us to page 9 in this PDF. So as we scroll through, it talks about counters and metric groups and collection levels and collection intervals, and it goes on to define the details for each of those. And if we wanted to jump to a specific part, for example on data collection intervals, we could click on that here in the PDF and it would take us to that part. So this is in the vSphere Monitoring and Performance Guide. And this states that if we set our collection frequency to 5 minutes, the collection interval/archive length will be 1 day. And on the far extreme, if we set the collection frequency for 1 day, the collection interval/archive length will be 1 year. And if we scroll down further, here it has details regarding data collection levels. And here is showing us that level 1, which is, by the way, the default data collection level in vCenter, is used for long-term performance monitoring. It doesn't collect as much data, for example, as level 4. As we go higher in the collection level, the more and more data we collect. For example, level 2 includes everything that level 1 has regarding the metrics, plus some additional content. And level 3 has everything that level 1 and level 2 has, and metrics for all counters excluding minimum and maximum rollup values. And then level 4 is effectively bring it on. And if we're going to use level 4, we'd want to make sure that we have the storage and capacity to store all of that data that we're going to be collecting over time inside of vCenter. So armed with this knowledge regarding the data collection levels, we can now set that inside of vCenter. So here in the vSphere web client, logged on as administrator at vsphere.local with the vcsa.nuggetlab.com selected on the left, and with the Configure tab selected, if we click on General under Settings, here we have our section for statistics. If we expand that by clicking on the little icon to the left of that, here it is showing us the interval duration as well as how long to save that information for. It also shows us here the level regarding the statistics. So if we wanted to change the statistics level, we can click on the edit icon up here in the upper right hand corner. And then regarding the statistics, we can just simply go ahead and click on the one that we want to change. And then from the drop down, select the level that we want. So for example, if we go to level 3, which will include level 1 and level 2 metrics, as well as metrics for all counters excluding the minimum and maximum rollup values, we could go ahead and select it here. So for the lab, I'm going to go ahead and set that back to 1. And while we're right here in the settings for our vCenter server, if we have alarms that we've set up, and we want the action to be sending an email message, it's here under the settings of the vCenter server that we could specify our SMTP email server that we're going to use to go ahead and send out the email messages. So in the mail server section, we'd put the SMTP address or name of our email server, and in the mail sender, we'd put the email address that we want this email to look like it came from. So since we're not making any changes, we can click on Cancel. And let's do one more example of using the documentation. So back in File Explorer, if we type in VPX user in the search field, and now we have a slightly smaller list to choose from regarding VPX users. So let's go ahead and click on the security guide, which will open that for us. And we'll do a Control F, and let's search for VPX user and press Enter. Here it indicates that the VPX user, as well as the root user, are assigned the administrator role by default. And if we click on Next, it'll continue to take us through any instances where a VPX user shows up. So here it has a warning saying, please do not change VPX user in any way. So if we click on Next a few more times regarding VPX user, it specifies here that the vCenter server changes the VPX user password automatically every 30 days. It also specifies here that we can change that password policy. So if we clicked on that link for Set the vCenter Server Password Policy, which is on page 99 of this PDF, here's the section right here. And it says we can select the vCenter server, go to Configure, go to Advanced Settings, look for this value, which is currently set for 30 days. And if we want it to be more than 30 days before it automatically changed the password, we could do that as well. So back in the vSphere web client, still with the vCenter selected, and still on the Configure tab, if we clicked on Advanced Settings, and then in the Filter section, we did a search for password, pressed Enter, there's the value right there. So to change that, we can click on Edit, and if we wanted to make that longer or shorter, regarding the automatic password change for the VPX user, we could set it right here. And the reason that this nugget exists is because working with the online documentation and or the PDFs and getting effective with it is going to be helpful for you in your career as you continue to work with any vendor's products, including VMware or others, because we're often going to have the need to look something up or look up some detail as we're implementing, supporting, and managing a vSphere infrastructure. So I encourage you to download those PDFs to your local computer and then have them as a resource. And as you're studying or labbing up a certain topic, if you want to know more, go right to those docs using the search features we've talked about in this nugget to get that additional information that you're looking for. So have some fun with the docs, and I'll see you in the next nugget. Meanwhile, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.